Hello, this is TJR, and Thursday night, January 16th, 2025, I found out that filmmaker David Lynch had passed away. He was 78 years old. The first David Lynch movie that I ever saw was Eraserhead. When I saw it, it was his only movie, and he had no other film credits to his name. The first time I became aware of this movie's existence was an image that I saw in a newspaper or magazine somewhere. Both the image and the short write-up about the film that accompanied the image piqued my curiosity. This would have been pre-1980, before streaming, and back when VHS was in its infancy. These days you can find a way to watch pretty much any movie that you want to, but back then it was a completely different world. There was, at that time, no real way for me to see this film. So I talked to a friend of mine who was a number of years older than me. At the time, he was one of the few people I knew who actually owned a VHS tape player and who was really into films. And he was always getting a hold of bootlegs of theatrical films that were, as yet, not available on VHS. About a month later, he called me and said that he had obtained a copy of the movie and that he had already seen it. I asked him what he thought. He hemmed and hawed for a bit and then finally blurted out, "This is the strangest goddamn thing I've ever seen." He invited me over for a screening, and I have to admit that halfway through the movie, I had to ask him to stop the film for just a moment. It was literally freaking me out, and I told him I needed a short intermission. By the movie's end, I knew that I had watched a work of genius. Why did I think this? Because with Eraserhead, David Lynch accomplished something that I had never seen in film before. He had found a way to capture the world of dream logic on film. Personally, I've always been and still am fascinated by dreams, these bizarre, absurdist movies that play in our heads when we sleep. And in motion pictures, there was how dreams were portrayed before David Lynch and how dreams were portrayed after David Lynch. And dream imagery in films has never been the same since. Watching Eraserhead, it felt like he had found a way to get inside of someone's head while they were asleep and film their dream. Of course, Eraserhead was no dream. It was a nightmare. The film was first advertised with the tagline, "A dream of dark and troubling things." Years later, I would find out that he toiled for 5 years to complete this movie. It began production while attending AFI Film School. He got a small grant from the school, and when that money ran out, he worked odd jobs and worked on other ways to get funding for the film. The film's production would stop and start as money became available to continue the production. In an era when everyone wants a fast road to success, it never ceases to amaze and impress me that he stayed committed to this one project, to his artistic vision, that he kept working on this strange art film that anyone outside of film school would have told him has absolutely no commercial value whatsoever. In fact, I'm sure his own film school probably said the same thing. But he remained unswayed and committed to art. Eraserhead premiered at the FilmX Film Festival in Los Angeles on March 19, 1977. On its opening night, it was attended by 25 people. 24 people watched it on its second night. After that, it was a fair bet that it might have languished into obscurity. But the movie found its legs and audience on the midnight movie circuit, running for a year in Los Angeles and then for close to 2 years in New York. After Eraserhead, he directed The Elephant Man, a straightforward, historic drama following a traditional narrative. But there were still some elements of dream narrative in the film as well. Next would be Dune, a film that was pivotal for his career because it was the film that made him realize that he would never direct another movie again without a guarantee of final cut. After that, I would describe all of his films and TV shows: Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, Wild at Heart, On the Air, Hotel Room, Fire Walk with Me, Lost Highway, The Straight Story, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, Twin Peaks: The Return. All of them as a mix of traditional narrative combined with dream logic narrative. And for this reason, his films can sometimes be a bit undecipherable, which is frustrating to some, but a sheer joy to me. In his lifetime, David Lynch was always guarded about what his films meant. And over the years, so many commentators, critics, bloggers, and vloggers have speculated on what his films were about. They would offer analysis. They would claim to be able to demystify his films and find the hidden meaning behind their symbolism. And there's really nothing wrong with any of this. I have really enjoyed all of the David Lynch analysis that I have read and listened to over the years. In fact, David Lynch would encourage interpretation, saying that what is important is not how he interprets the film, but how you interpret it. One of the bonus features on the Criterion edition of Eraserhead features an interview with David Lynch sharing his memories surrounding the film. At the end, he describes the movie as a very personal film, and that not one reviewer, critic, or viewer's interpretation of the film was ever his interpretation. Some years back, David Lynch made a cameo as himself on the animated comedy series Family Guy. In the segment, he gives a small boy a severed thumb as a Christmas gift. This boy expresses fear and turns his head away in terror upon seeing it. Lynch tells him, "Don't look away. Let the fear wash over you." "But I don't understand," the boy exclaims, to which Lynch responds, "That's the whole point." And to me, that sums up how I believe you should experience his films. Don't try to figure out what you are watching while you are watching it. His films are an experience, and you should just allow the experience to wash over you. Or to quote the Beatles song, "Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream." By the way, if you happen to be watching this out of curiosity but have never really checked out any of his films, I will recommend that you start with Mulholland Drive. I call it his most quintessential movie. This is TJR, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to click like, hit subscribe, and the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And keep your eye on the donut and not the hole.